This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Red Side of the Trent as we bring you kind of the latest news and updates for the end of June, now going into July, where Nottingham Forest will return in just over a week's time as we head to Chesterfield on the 12th of July, which we'll chat about in a bit. Joining me today are Adam Wicklow and Christian Brown. Before anyone who does watch this says, no, me and Christian did not speak before the pod started and have decided on the same away shirts, but such is life. How are we, chaps? Anyway, we good?
Yeah, good. I feel like you also coordinated for Steve Cook coming on the show as well. Just admit it, guys. It's fine.
The problem with that season is that away kit, although we did on one of my probably favourite ever away days in Blackpool, which we shared together, Adam. We wore that kit, but it wasn't really an iconic kit. It was always a high vis that took centre stage, wasn't it, from that season? So yeah. But enjoy the Steve Cook pod, guys. Listen to it back at all.
Yeah. Haven't yet, to be fair. I suppose I was sort of there for it, I guess. But,
yeah.
No, I haven't listened.
For me, when I'm in the moment, I kind of like to listen stuff back because
I listen to about halfway through during the shop in Tesco, and I've just been laughing at obviously him smashing Morgan Gibbs White in a tackle before trying to go to him. You could have come to us and like, oh, I don't know, like the child catcher or something. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. Steve's a really good bloke, really good guy. Happy that he was part of our football club once, and that he still enjoys coming to watch us with his kids. To be fair, I mean, say guy was only there for a year and a half or so. Yeah. And to add that connection already pretty quick is astonishing, really.
Yeah, and he like slotted into our podcast as if like he'd been on it quite a lot, hadn't he? So for those who go on,
you forget that he's like our age. He's only a year older than me and you, Reiss. Yeah. He's born in 91, so
yeah, he's a bit like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you do put it like that. But for those who have listened and watched it, we hope you enjoyed it. We've had some really good feedback on Twitter. Saw a Facebook comment as well earlier saying how much someone had enjoyed it. But yeah, we're hoping to get another guest, which will hopefully be in August. But there'll also be some trying before that to try and get others on. But we'll see as we go into the season. But anyway, like latest news and that. So we'll start with probably the latest news, which was yesterday. I believe it was, or was it the day before? Yesterday, I think it was yesterday.
What was yesterday?
Good. Which is Neco Williams has signed a new long-term contract. It will keep him with Forest until 2029. Christian, how pleased would you to see that deal get over the line?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Obviously, he's been a tough road, I'd say, for Williams in his Forest career. I'd say again that first year was particularly bad. I know you see people say, I always believe and whatever else. They're much more optimistic than the average fan because he was dreadful that first season. I think that's, it's no exaggeration. So much so that he was fourth choice right back within a year of signing. So, but since then, he's not let it get to him. He's got his head down. He's learned. He's grown. He's developed. It's admirable, really, and it's just nuts how it just feels like you sort of like missed 2 years. But we've known from the start he could play there. It's him at left back. He's just so important to what Forest do. None of his weaknesses at right back apply at left back, but you still get all the good stuff he has over there as well. So he seems a very complete left back, which is really good for the club. Undisputably first choice left back. Very exciting. I think the most pleasing thing from the club aspect, of course, obviously he's going into his last year of contract. Not only have we secured the player of that strength and that ability for the next few years, but he's not going to go on a free. So that's really pleasing. And very, very happy he signs.
Yeah, I was thinking about this while I was at work earlier, because obviously, I knew we were going to do this pod tonight. And it's kind of been like 18 months where he was really kind of shaky in his first 18 months. And then the 18 months kind of since, he's been probably since when Cooper actually restored him in that Wolves game, which was literally at the point where he wasn't playing at all, was he? Like you said, Christian, he was at that stage probably behind. I mean, Aurier had gone, I think, by then, Ante, but at the start of the season, you'd had Aina and Montiel on that side as well. So he's kind of got that trust from Steve right at the death for his tenure, and then he's took it on. And something as well, I think I have to say, is the improvement under Nuno. Incredible. Just the coaching. And you do have to feel sorry for Steve, because he probably couldn't coach with the amount of players he did have. But now we've got that settled squad, you're probably seeing players who Forest originally brought, talented players, actually being coached properly, and that we're now reaping the benefits.
I'd like to know what maybe sparked Nuno, and maybe what the players must have had a say of swapping him and Aina around, because obviously Aina was playing left back because he's so like. I always forget the proper word for being both footed, but he's like amnipedal or whatever it's called. I think it is
ambidextrous.
Yeah, no, that's with your hands.
Oh, there's a thing with your feet.
There's a word for your feet as well. Trust me, I've looked this up because I was that anal about it. But yeah, so I'd love to know what maybe that sparked that, because that has been the big turning point, hasn't it? Really, him going to left back, like you said, Christian, his weaknesses are just completely not there. They don't exist at left back. And I think it's because he plays against so many left footers that want to cut inside. So he's therefore strong, tackling on his stronger side, maybe, and he's a bit more aggressive with it. So that might be something. But have you seen the picture, the side by side? Because obviously they've done the picture from when he first signed in the same place, and the weight difference is incredible. Like, you can obviously tell that he's put on a lot of muscle mass, and like that Premier League body, like he's almost become a man, because it's did he sign for us when he was about 21, 22? And now he's 20, 24, 25. So it's clearly told like it is improvement in terms of his physicality as well as his ability.
Yeah, and it's just consistent playing time, which is what you always want with young players. At Liverpool, he was a backup to Trent Alexander-Arnold, wasn't he? And even now, look at Liverpool's next cab through the rank was Conor Bradley. He's probably going to be a backup to Frimpong. They've spent 30 million on him, so there was kind of no way through, was he, really, there for him? So he's fair play to him for coming to us, and actually, he's actually got games under his belt, and he's kind of never looked back. So will be interesting to see if we do bring in another player in that position, like a natural left footer to kind of compete with him. But as Christian said, it's his shirt at the minute, isn't it? And probably why Truffey, who John Percy said we was high up on his list, went straight to Bournemouth, because he's probably going to play, isn't he? Whereas any left back coming to Forest, a left footer would have to dislodge Neco Williams first of all. So yeah, brilliant news. And I seen a T-shirt, what he was wearing, which has become very popular. I'm sure that'll be released. Reminded me of one. Yeah, it reminded me of it. So Adam West has got this because I sold it to him through my shirt page, but it reminded me of a training top we had in the late 90s when we got back to the Premier League, which I think was based on the white with the black-red stripe kit, which we got battered at Liverpool in, is one game I can think of. But say no more about that, but I'm sure that'll be a popular seller if it comes out. Moving on now, but I think you guys chatted about this last week or a couple of weeks ago, but there was obviously talk about this meeting with Rushcliffe Council. I think it was Thursday, wasn't it? So I know you watched it, Christian. So I will come to you on this because you watched it. First of all, what did you make of the meeting? And secondly, obviously, it was, the news what we all wanted, because we did get it granted, but still a long way to go yet. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, I mean, obviously working in local government myself, like, you sort of want to come away from work when you finish the day and not throw myself straight into another work-related topic. Honestly, some of the things that came out of that meeting, I struggle to fathom. Like, does anyone know what the Swiss bus routes has to do with Forest building a new stand. I'd love to hear that. Or how Forest wanted to get 5,000 people into the City Ground apparently contributes to what, needs to sort out social housing as well. I don't know, but yeah, it was it was interesting. I think the main concerns are obviously the parking and stuff like that, but I'm sure it'll be fine. There'll be ways around it or things that we can sort it out for it anyway. I mean, as we all know, the City Ground, people generally walk into the ground anyway. They're parking or closest nearby and then walk in. So it shouldn't make too much difference, I think, in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, overall, very, very pleasing to get it over the line, to get it secured. The only notable concern for me, I think, I could be completely wrong in saying this, I think you've got 3 years from planning approval, commission approval to actually get like a spade in the ground and start actioning it. But what concerns me is that not so much that, it's more that this has been 6 years in the making now. We still haven't found an alternate location for the boathouse. That is quite poor, I think, when you consider how much money and time's gone into this to make it work, and patience and what it's worth from Marinakis as well, from everyone at the club from the top down. That is quite a big oversight to not have that location sorted. Hopefully that can be sorted relatively quickly. I mean, I don't know how long it will take, but a boathouse is only quite a small thing, really, I guess. So hopefully you'd like to think that the club can locate a location. I pick out a location and get it. You'd like to think, hope maybe next year we can get it sorted, but until it's identified and built on, then we can't do anything. So that's the only concern for me. But in the grand scheme of things, yeah, huge leap forwards. It's been a long, long time coming. I mean, I think the sand's been there since the 60s, isn't it? I think that makes sense. So potato sands, it's long overdue a glow up, and yeah, I'm just really, really pleased that we can finally do it and get it over the line. Because that is our home. It is it's important that we sort of maximise that as best as we can. So yeah, I'm very, very pleased, but obviously still not, like I said, until we get diggers on site, then it's still going to be okay. When's it getting done, sort of thing.
Yeah, because there was some talk, wasn't there, like social media, that would kind of start at the end of this season coming. Do you expect that not to happen?
It all depends on the club. It all depends on how quickly they can work, get a location. It did sound from the meeting that Forest and the boat club themselves were in total agreement. That was the way to go forward, and they obviously seem quite happy about that. So you'd like to think the relationship is there, and they can work pretty quickly on getting this, the wheels moving on this one. But honestly, it's not really in Forest's hands. If Forest pick a location, for example, and the boathouse go, no, that's crap, don't want it, then that just kicks a can further down the road. But that's something that could happen, for example. So yeah, I mean, we've walked down that river many times. I'm sure they can find somewhere down there they could put it, and it should be fine. So, but yeah, I'd like to think hopefully they can get it done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I did find it a little bit disappointing that site hadn't been earmarked. I think would probably be the word I'd use. Just like you said, it just kicks the can down the road. But I guess it's a little bit of positive news that we're over one hurdle, but obviously plenty more to jump over until, like you say, Chris, until we see spades in the ground. It's kind of like, well, is it going to happen kind of thing, isn't it? Because it has dragged on for so long. And I think I spoke about this the last time I was on the pod, or on my Twitter, I can't remember, but that main stand has needed doing for when it needed doing at Euro 96 when I redid the Trent end, you know what I mean? It was out of date then, and we're now in 2025. So, and the club needs some modern facilities, and I'm glad the NIMBYs in the area who will happily see every little business round and go bust just because someone walks past the window once a fortnight didn't get the way. But moving on anyway.
So just on that, it was infuriating here, some of the things, sort of thing. Like you said, it's just total disregard. It's like, like you said, they would very willingly see all those businesses go pop if it meant that, they can get a parking space on Wednesday night. But again, it sort of begs the question, and this is something I've always maintained, no matter where it is, because one of my friends, training the pod actually, and Dave, when he was looking to move out, he was looking at Wembley, for example. Because you might know, obviously, with the season, there's a load of flats near-ish to Wembley Stadium.
I've delivered to one before.
Yeah, And
I built some near it.
And anyway, he specifically asked like the housing estate agent, whatever. He said, "Can you guarantee that I won't hear any noise from Wembley Stadium if I'm here?" And they went, "No." So we went, "Right, okay, it's not for me then." Like, and that's just common sense. If you're going to live near a stadium, you need to know, if you're going to put something to it, are these things going to be a factor? You wouldn't choose to live near a stadium knowing full well this could happen, but they do it anyway. And then they go, "Oh," they feign ignorance. Like, "Oh, I didn't realise Forest get 30,000 every week, and there's a waiting list of 20,000, whatever." It's like, what rock have you been living under? Like, so I have no sympathy for them whatsoever.
No, it is frustrating because this is why we got anti-growth in this country at the minute. Nothing ever seems to kind of get done. But we'll move on because we're not getting into a politics rant. So this was Saturday evening because I was on a plane, so I missed this annoyingly, which was the exact same for the Italy game in Euro 2012, if you can remember it. I was on a flight back from Magaluf with my friends, and we landed to be told by the pilot that England had gone out on penalties again. But this time I landed, and literally it was the last minute of extra time, and I saw England was winning 3-2. And they went on to win and retain UEFA European champions, the under-21s, which Elliot Anderson was a key part in. And they also got in team of the tournament. Adam, what did you make of his performances throughout the tournament?
Mate, he was player of the tournament. I kid you not. Harvey Elliott got it, and Anthony Gordon got it the time before, and they were both so undeserving of it. They only got it because they were the top scorer for the team. Like, that is literally the only reason. But Elliot Anderson ran the game against Germany. It was a really, really good game to watch. Actually, lots of talent on show from both sides, and Anderson just did what he does for Forest, but basically because England played on the counter attack for a large part of the game, but he was involved with everything. He was just running until he could run no more. Basically, ran himself into the ground, and he was excellent. Like, just his normal combative self, drawing fouls, relieving pressure. Just, he was excellent. And every time he did something, Joe Hart just went, "I can't speak about him anymore because he's just too good." And it really infuriated me. And not because I'm a biased Elliot Anderson fanboy, as I am on Twitter, but the fact that Jermaine Defoe and Connor Cody they didn't want to mention him as someone that could potentially break into the first team. They were talking about Harvey Elliott and James McAtee, who don't even play every week for their clubs. I found it very, very weird, and I
was a bit big club biased.
Well, I don't know, because I find that very strange. Because it's England at the end of the day. It doesn't matter who you're playing for, as long as you're good enough to wear the shirt and you're doing a job. I just find that a bit strange. I just found that a little bit strange. But no, Elliot Anderson did himself no disservice. He was brilliant, and I listened to actually Henry Winter on Forest Focus talk about him because he covered it quite a lot. And he even agreed. He said he was the player of the tournament. He was excellent, and I think the Germans were quite happy to see him go off. But unfortunately, it didn't do anything good for him because England ended up winning it in the end. And I think they deserve. I think it was a really good game. It could have gone either way, but if you watched it from a neutral point of view, you'd have got your money's worth for it because it was bloody good.
Yeah, I think once it went to 2-2 after being 2-0, you probably fancy Germany because all the momentum's with them. But fair play to them, to come back and win it again. It's one of them with Harvey Elliott. Yeah, the goals have took over and that, and you can't really take that away from him because I watched the semi-finals in Spain, and the goal he scored, I think, to win it was a cracking goal. And what did he get? 5 goals. So I'm not going to argue too much against that, but forget him anyway, because we'll talk about our player. But, when Anderson come in, I don't think anyone really in the fan base knew what he was kind of about. We obviously saw this guy from Newcastle who'd played a few times, not become a first teamer. And I don't think anyone, probably looking back, expected him to become as first choice centre mid, bar none. I mean, there's probably no argument there really. Where would you, now he's kind of established himself as one of our first teamers, main players, where would you like to see him go on to that next level next season, and where do you think the improvements needed?
I think the obvious is in his numbers. I think if he scores more goals and gets more assists, then he goes up another level automatically. Because I think he's got everything else, hasn't he? He can do both sides of the coin. He can attack and he can defend. He loves a tackle. We've seen that this season. How many bookings he got, but mainly them out of more frustration out of everything. I remember that Leicester game where I think Neco Williams sold him short, so he absolutely destroyed, I think, El Canouse in a tackle, and then he had a go at Williams for basically a poor pass. So I think he's got absolutely everything. I think Christian reiterated it before we signed him. He was a guy who'd never scored a Premier League goal in 50-odd games. So I think this season for him, I think a personal goal for him will be to maybe score between like 5 and 10 goals this season. And he's capable because he does get into some really good positions. It's just sometimes his shooting does let him down. It's not his ball striking. That's pretty good. It's just his accuracy. So I think if he scores more goals, gets more assists, he automatically goes up a level. And Reiss 2.0 said it the other week on the pod, like we'll be struggling to keep him if he does that and we don't get into a European competition again next season.
So I'm going to put you on the spot now and say, does he make the World Cup squad?
Yes. Ahead of Jordan Henderson. Because if that fraud goes, I will not be watching.
Well, if Tuchel's the manager, mate, he will be going because, in my opinion, there's just no point in... I mean, there's no point, in my opinion, having him in the squad anyway. I mean, I think back to the Roy Keane thing where he's like, what does he do? Does he do card tricks? Does he do that? But now he's in the squad, I'd be very surprised if all of a sudden he kind of took him out. I think that's kind of one of them where he's going to see.
Henderson's going, mate. Adam's taught in Poland. I was taught Colombia at the World Cup.
Our three central midfielders at the World Cup should be Adam Wharton, Declan Rice, and Elliot Anderson. And if anyone else is living under a rock, because they are our three. Jude Bellingham's a number 10. I can't class him as 10.
Who the two would you play though? I'm guessing Reiss and obviously Anderson.
Anderson, yeah, I like Wharton. I love Wharton. I think he's a very classy footballer, left footer, so he adds balance to it. And I think he can probably do a similar job to Anderson. I'm just biased, but Elliot Anderson's playing a higher level of football than Adam Wharton, and will play a higher level of football this season coming than Adam Wharton unless he moves.
Wow.
Unless Crystal Palace get in. Yeah, but they're not going to get very far in it. Let's be honest. I don't want to downplay it, Palace fans, but they're not going to get that far in it. They'll get out. They'll get out the group.
17th in the Premier League. Play one knockout. I wouldn't. I
guess for Palace, it's obviously the experience. Same with us. Obviously, juggling the Thursdays and the Sundays. If Gerhi goes, that'll be a big miss. If obviously Eze goes, that'll be massive for them. Apart from all that, it's kind of a shame it's become like this, really, because you kind of want to wish them well, don't you? Similar club like us, really, not had much success in the last, God knows how long. We can talk about debatably how they won the cup final, but they won it. And then obviously we've got all this UEFA legal stuff, which is still being kicked down the road. They're obviously waiting for Lyon to be relegated, which then makes the UEFA then have to make a decision then. But it's going to be really interesting if Lyon do get a reprieve and stay in League One, because then they're going to have to make a decision, which is, I think, going to end up messy. If Lyon get put back in the top flight French football, it's going to get messy. And it wouldn't surprise me if it ends up in court. But the problem is the qualifiers start next week. Yes, so a week tomorrow they all start.
It's very messy, like you say. Just the one last thing about the Anderson thing. Thomas Tuchel was in attendance of the final, and so as far as I know from what commentators were saying, they looked like they was impressed with him and everything else. But I mean, I was listening to the Football Ramble and I was like, well, who was Thomas Tuchel supporting?
The FA is paying him a lot of money, hopefully. But, he's got to work with Kazi, hasn't he? Because if you can't work with him, being the under-21 manager, then he ain't fit for the job. But, yeah, we'll see with Tuchel. We'll see when it gets a proper game, when it's Serbia away, I think, in September, when we've got a proper game, what we need to win. Then we'll kind of see what's what then. But moving on away, chatting with Forest. But as we did last year, Adam, you did a pod on Bradley Loco. He then, I think, did his ligaments and was out for the whole season. So we had to scrap
we've never
that.
seen light of day for that one.
That never saw the light of day. But the pod that did see the light of day was your pod talking about Mbangula and Weah. And then what was it, day after or on the day? It was actually, first of all, Weah wasn't coming. And then it was later announced that Mbangula wasn't coming as well. Juve want rid of these players, but they don't seem to want to come to Forest. Are you pleased they've kind of said no, or a bit disappointed?
I'm pleased they've said no because we can move on. The one that puzzles me more so than anyone is Bangula not coming, because I'd have thought I get it. It's a little bit of a downward step from Juventus, but you're not a starter there. You're going to come to a club where there's evidence of young players coming from bigger clubs to play at Forest and get an opportunity, and they've all improved. You'd say not one of them has gone on and not improved. It's like even Brennan Johnson leaving, who had come through the academy, had an opportunity, and he's moved for nearly £50 million. So I think that's it. That's his loss. I think we will gain elsewhere another player that will be happy to take the leap, will reap the benefits of coming to Forest.
Yeah, I think for what the fee was suggested as well, I think it would have been good business for us. Was it like €8 million?
Yeah, it was very little.
That's nothing, is it? Personally, I wasn't bothered about Weah because I remember he was a young lad at Celtic for a bit, and then he went on to Lille. But he's actually never really, if you look at his stats, he's never really. I know he's been versatile under Motta for Juve before he got sacked, and he was playing right wing back, but he's never really put up any real stats of note. I think he did. He was the one who skipped past Williams in the World Cup, wasn't he, for Wales, Weah, ironically. But no, I wasn't too bothered about that. But Mbangula would have been nice, I guess, because it is a prospect. But like you said, Adam, at least we could move on rather than it being a drawn-out saga like we kind of got with Jimenez last summer. And there's probably others as well who forgot about. But but moving on to some more recent links, and these are just rumours. So there was talk that Ramon Sosa was closing in on going to Palmeiras, but then there was some chat that he was preferring to stay in Europe, but with a World Cup year coming up, I'm sure he wants to be playing regular football because Paraguay are going to qualify. But that might also be a domino effect that we might not let these players go until we've got somebody in. So there was then Fabrizio Romano, who does seem to get quite a bit wrong with Forest at the minute, but he said we'd had a bid accepted for Fofana from Lyon. That was kind of quickly quashed by some French media outlets. He's attracting interest from Bayern, Napoli, Chelsea, as every player in the world is with Chelsea. And then there's also, I think apparently that Jesus, which looks a pretty much done deal on Touchwood, his medical is complete. Obviously, Botafogo went out of the Club World Cup to Palmeiras, I believe it was. So he might have gone on holiday now because they're kind of in their season, aren't they, Brazil? So what do you make of the recent links, Christian?
Interesting as always. I think what interests me more is the sort of players that we're targeting. Just because obviously going on the Mbangula thing and the Weah thing, I think the main thing for me wasn't so much that they didn't sign. Like yourselves, I wasn't too fussed about Weah. He would have been an improvement on Joshua, I'd say, in terms of depth. But I fully understand why he wouldn't want to leave Juventus to be the exact same boat as he was there as he's at Forest, especially in a World Cup year for America as well. Also pleased that we won't be seeing that sideshow that comes with him just on his nationality like we saw with Turner. So that's pleasing. But the Mbangula one did sort of annoy me a little bit just because it's whether we like them or not, it's the same when we went with Shelby, for example, whether we rate a player or not, if the club's isolated that player as a target and they're struggling to sign them, that's a concern. It's the issue is don't get me wrong, Forest could sign bodies. We all know Forest can sign bodies. That's been proven time and time again, especially in the Premier League era. But what we saw last year, we can't have a situation again where Nuno does not trust his depth. And I mean, you saw it with last year with Sousa, for example, the shape conjuring he came up with to seemingly avoid playing him, like Vida away being a big one, a second memory for me, like Dominguez playing at right back and stuff like that. It sort of shuffled the whole team round to sort of try and make it fit. We can't have that again this season. He's going to need to trust those players that we bring in. So the concern for me is that if we say they're our first targets and we've missed them, the more you go down the lists, the more likely it is that Nuno will look at them and think they need more time, can't trust them. So that's a concern for me personally, and that's the same for all the targets that we get drawn with now. Because anyone that's wide, a left or a right winger, I'm looking at them and thinking they're second choice, because we've actually made a move to try and sign 2 wingers from Juventus and failed. So that's a bit of a concern.
Do you think there was some aspects of that deal because it was the other side of the PSR deadline and Juve were skinned and wanted to move players out, so we thought, well, we might actually chance these, get them for cheaper, and it allows some more budget elsewhere?
I mean, possibly there would have been that element as well, but then if Juve really were that much up against it, they'd have forced them out. So they just said that you're going tough, like end of. So that didn't happen. So I don't know. I mean, obviously we're still in July, long way to go. Yeah, if we're still in this situation this time next month, I'll start to get quite touchy because that will not be good. But yeah, I mean, the club recruitment have earned our trust. Of course, they have with what they brought in, but whether they've got the manager's trust is another matter, and that's something that we really get right this summer. Because if we can get a depth, we aren't looking for say 10, 15 new players. That isn't the port of call. We just need to improve the depth options we currently have, because the first 11's very, very good. It's easy top 10 Premier League level, in my opinion, and we've proved that this season. But when you're playing Thursday, Sunday, and you've got other cup games thrown in as well, he's going to have to play those depth players. And he doesn't trust them now. We need to find players that he does trust. So yeah, that's all I'm sort of thinking of. I mean, whoever Forest sign, we can be sceptical of them or not, but we can only judge them in a red shirt ultimately. Just hopefully we can get some good ones in, because that is one of the key areas there, especially on the wings, and I'd say probably a fullback as well.
I think we'll probably start to see it ramp up now. We are into July, and I'm guessing they'll be back for pre-season on Monday. I'm guessing is because there's not been a lot of business done. I don't see like any. You're always going to get the hitters signing teams because they can attract the top players. Like Florian Wirtz is going to, like, if he knows Liverpool got a straight shootout between Liverpool and Bayern and he chooses Liverpool, they're going to get that deal done, because there isn't going to be anybody else who comes in who can kind of overtake them in terms of, like Chelsea the same. Pedro's got a choice, Chelsea or Newcastle. He wants to go to Chelsea. Done deal, easy. For maybe like clubs like us, some players might want to take the time at some times, might need a little bit of convincing, which if you do want quality, that's going to happen.
Yeah,
so I don't think there's been a lot of business elsewhere, has there? I mean, you guys can tell me
I think other sides. City have signed Cherky, and they've signed Nori.
I mean, the clubs like probably ran like our kind of level.
I think the only other teams that have really signing are the teams that have come up, like Burnley and Sunderland and Leeds. Yeah. They're the ones who are signing players, and they're the ones who need to more so than anyone else. Yeah. So, yeah, I think teams are losing players more so than anything. Like, look at Bournemouth and Wolves, who are getting ripped apart, and Brentford. Like Brentford getting Keith Andrews in this season has got the potential to be an absolute disaster class, hasn't it?
Don't say that with who we've got on first day of the season, because you know how it goes.
You got to put it out there a little bit, because it's a bit out of the blue, isn't it? Really, I know he's come through. I know he was their set piece coach or anything, but he couldn't even get the job at MK Bleeding Dons. So I
guess they were speaking about this on TalkSPORT the other day, and I think Simon Jordan actually made a good point. If it wasn't Brentford or Brighton, you'd be like asking real questions. But because it's kind of them two clubs who rely on them statistics, at least they can say, well, here's some reasons statistically, because that's what they do, them clubs. If you agree or not with that, here's some reasons why we're going to go with this guy. But we'll have to.
The thing is, I mean, that only goes so far. Football's played on grass ultimately. And it's not like these clubs haven't made mistakes. Like Brentford let Ekitike go, for example. They passed up on him. Now, obviously, like Frankfurt are valuing him at 100 million euros. obviously also Brighton with Gyökeres, for example. These things happen. It does happen. They don't always get it right. I think that's a colossal risk for Brentford.
Yeah, it is. I agree. But we'll have to kind of see what happens there.
Just the last one on the Fofana thing, because we didn't mention it. I think that is either an agent thing saying basically he's available, he wants to get out because he doesn't want to be playing in League Two, which is fair enough. He's a very talented young footballer. I think that link to us is a wee chance in, because it's a chance to try and get a young hot prospect at a cut price where John Textor, I know he's supposedly withdrawn from Leon, hasn't he, or whatever, with Marinakis being his mate. I don't know. I don't mind us like maybe shopping in them kind of places, but maybe we do need to maybe find our aisle a little bit. But yeah, like I think Christian, you mentioned like maybe you've got to take your time, pitch those ideas a little bit more. But we'll see. We'll get it done, I think.
This is the thing. I mean, this is, I think, what also made me laugh last night. When obviously Romano broke the news, is that you've had fans like going, we want signings, we want statement signings, we want to improve the 11, otherwise we're going to go backwards, whatever else. We get linked with a player who could theoretically do that and could potentially be Forest's first choice left winger. I honestly, if we were to sign this Fofana chap, I couldn't tell you who starts out of Hudson-Odoi or him. I really couldn't, because he looks at electric. He absolutely ripped United to pieces in that Europa League quarterfinal this season as well. Not that that's particularly a high bar of how United played, but United did put all their eggs in Europa League basket, so United was trying. And then it comes out that he wants to assess his options because Chelsea and Bayern Munich wants him, and then you get fans go, "Oh, if he's going to come here, then don't move on." It's like you can't have it both ways. You can't have it where you want Forest to sign these good young players, these good players in Europe who can really elevate the squads, and then expect them to just you say jump, they say how high, they sign on the dot. It doesn't work like that. It's not Football Manager or FIFA, for example. Like, take Fofana, for example. He was born in 2005. That makes me feel very old as well. So let's say he starts getting into football when you're like, you can really sort of get into it. So let's say he's 7, 8 years old. So when he was around that sort of age, Forest had what? Like, you're looking at McDougal, Ishmael Miller. Do you really think Fofana had posters of Ishmael Miller on his wall as a kid? No, he didn't. It didn't happen.
Of George Boateng.
Yeah, with Jonathan
scoring
Green,
against
Leicester. Jesus. It's such an. I don't know. I swear our fans just think that way sometimes. It's like, they're linked with Forest, with a huge club and whatever else. Kids aren't dreaming of coming like the Forest. They're dreaming of the Champions League and playing for the big boys. We have to do a lot of convincing to get these players to sign. But the fact we're at the table linked with them and in conversation with them is a big sign of progress, because they're actually listening to us. It's not laugh down the phone and hang up. They're actually going, okay, let's see what they got to say first. And then, we can always wait if we need to. That's a good step. I don't know why people take that so negatively. It's still a good step.
And there is benefits of coming to us as well, because, if you're a young player, you might take that step too early and, go to X club and be a bit part player, and then, it might stunt your progression. Whereas you can come here, obviously play week in, week out most of the time. And, if it obviously works out for the player, if they do well, then bigger clubs might sniff, and we'd make money on them, and everyone's kind of a winner. Murillo's a prime example, isn't he? 10 million, he's come in, he's worth whatever you want to put value on him now. If he left, say, next summer, he's done 3 years of service at Forest, we've made a hell of a load of money we can reinvest. Everyone's kind of happy, you know what I mean? So
Elanga's the same. If Newcastle matched that price of 60 million, we've gained 45 million of profit on him, and he's given us 2 very good years. So,
I kind of look at us as like a quite a good medium club to come to, and I don't mean this in a biased way, but there's enough pressure to play for Forest, and then there's no pressure in terms of, because we're not challenging at the very top, but we would like to. We'd like to eat at that dinner table. So we're quite a good one. We've got a decent fan base to come and play football in front of. We've got an okay-ish stadium to come and play at. It's historic. It's got character. The city are well behind you when you come and play. We've got a lot of history. So I think we're a good middle club for players to come to. It's just about selling that dream to them. But people are greedy, aren't they? Sometimes that's the problem.
I mean, this is probably what happened. Which I don't think will happen, but it probably happened with Sangare. He was probably holding out for maybe a club because when we signed Sangare, we just stayed up, hadn't we? He was probably holding out because he was being linked with some really big clubs, some powerhouse of European football. He was
Liverpool and PSG.
And he was playing in the qualifiers with PSV. And did they get in that year, PSV, or did Rangers knock them out? I think they beat Rangers.
I think PSV got through, yeah.
I won the league that year as well, PSV.
But even last season, they got in the Champions League and got to the knockouts because they beat Juve, didn't they? But so even then, it waited till the end of the window to get him in. And I know people might have an opinion now on Sangare, but at the time, literally the whole fan base wanted him and saw it as a statement signing. So, Hudson-Odoi was on that last day, for example, as well. Nico Dominguez last day. So, yeah, sometimes you do maybe have to wait to get the right deal because we don't want to go back to where we panic buying because you hit it nail on the head, Christian. Yeah, Forest can bring in bodies. We know that. But we don't want, we look at, thankfully, come away from this now, but just look at some of the players we have signed in the Premier League, the likes of Origi and Ayew, and I could list a load of others who are just a waste of time. So it needs to be the right player, and sometimes we'll maybe be over-ambitious and sometimes we might have to wait, but it's good that we're looking at these type of players. But just to wrap it up then, pre-season schedule has been announced, guys. So, most of it's been announced. So Chesterfield away, so not too long now, 12th of July until we'll see Forest back in action. I'm guessing the gap in between is when we're off to Portugal, wasn't it? There was actually a TV company put up that would be playing Fulham and is it Estoril who João Carvalho plays for. That would be a nice reunion for him. I don't know if they might have another game in that time because I think there's 3 weeks between Chesterfield and Birmingham, but then it's obviously Birmingham away, like a memorial game for Trevor Francis. Fiorentina at home, which it come up, and then I'd literally have my partner calling me straight away, and I was praying it would be away, but it's at home, and we'll have to probably wait for the Conference League to get Fiorentina away. Because Florence is just such a lovely city. And is it Al Qadsiya, Saudi Arabian team? They've got Aubameyang and Nacho Fernandez, ex-Real Madrid, I've seen in their ranks. So any of them catch your eyes, guys?
I'm more disappointed we've not been in
pre-season.
Where is our invite in the post that's got lost to the Como Cup? Have you seen that? That's happening.
Well, yeah,
I've
seen today like Newcastle have got Celtic away and they've got 10,000 and Fiorentina away would have been amazing.
I mean, imagine going Como and little wave to Cesc Fabregas.
Check out the booth.
Stat is they'll be the first ever Italian team to visit
Trentside,
Fiorentina. All the other friendlies we had against Italian teams have been away. So, and also if you like me and do like your ground up in. The B team have got Long Eaton United away on the 15th of July on a Tuesday night because that's my next photo because I screenshot it. So
it's really not long then until that first day. As we're recording this, it's only 10 days away till we play Chesterfield. Like we said off camera, that they must be coming back in like Monday.
Got to be Monday, yeah.
Run an absolute load between Monday and like Thursday, and then just rock up Saturday, beat Chesterfield. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt.
Do you think, obviously we know our key pre-season is because we saw last season the change. We had all the Nuno in Athens kind of pictures, didn't we? But on a serious note, Nuno went from probably a lot of fans being 50-50 about him to convincing everybody because he had that solid pre-season to get his ideas across. Who would you guys say, if I was to pick out one player, would you say needs a really good pre-season to take into next season?
I think just while Christian's thinking, I think Sangare needs to continue the back end of last season into this pre-season personally and really prove that he's got over this injury kind of woe. I know, which is also so detrimental this season that there's an AFCON again.
Yeah.
I completely respect African football. I think Senegal were brilliant against England in that friendly. I mean, we didn't really, I don't think we spoke about it too much. But they were brilliant. I don't think they've lost for a long time, Senegal, in a game, and they look really good. But like, I just hate the fact that is in the middle of the season, because obviously that's their summer, like during our winter. So it's just a nuisance of a tournament. Thankfully, we haven't got as many Africans playing in that. But I would hate it if Sangare starts the season extremely well and then suddenly is whisked away from us. Hopefully, we've got contingency plans in place anyway, because we've got Nico Domingos who can fill in central midfield. I actually expect him to play central midfield a lot more this season anyway. So we've got cover there. I think he's one that needs a good preseason again to continue from the back end of last season.
Anyone else spring to mind, Christian? Or
yeah, Sangare is a big one in it. Although he did end strongly, which is very pleasing. It'll be interesting to see how, assuming Jesus signs, and Cunha, for example. I mean, if anything, they should be more alert anyway, because obviously their season started in February, isn't
it's
they?
just
So
that when they get to the back end of the season,
that's it. Yeah, you see about February, March time. But I guess if he's still going to play a part, Danilo could be a big one. Because obviously after his injury as well, this could be quite a big big couple of weeks for him, especially. I know he's been linked with Betis recently as well, and obviously the Lyon move will likely fall through now. But if he is to stick around and play a part, then this is a big preseason for him. I think you look at the likes of Morato and Carmo. Obviously, Morato didn't have one at Forest last season. He came in on deadline day. Carmo's his first chance to really impress, if you like. Bindon, it looks like, obviously could go to Sheffield United on loan, from the Guardian. But again, this is his chance to sort of lay an impression, sort of say, I'd actually, maybe we don't go on loan, maybe stay around and we play you when we can, like with Abbott this season, for example. So, there's a few players in there that I think we're looking into it and thinking, okay, this is going to be pretty big. But I think top of the list, we did it for me, yeah.
Well, I think we'll leave it at that then, chaps. Anything else you want to chat about, or?
I also just wanted to mention that I think even like younger players like Dale Taylor or Joe Gardner, I think that it's even just as important for them if they get an opportunity with us, because it puts them in the shop window for future loans, or maybe a bit of a decider of what we do with him. Dale Taylor's in his early 20s, isn't he? He had a good season at Wigan, like considering how poor
very
they
good
were.
season at Wigan. Yeah.
I hate to say this, but I don't think his future lies at Forest. But if we can make a pretty profit on him by selling him to a Championship or a high-end League One side, I think you kind of got to take those pennies where you can pinch them, basically, in a sense.
You'd want to sell on or a buyback clause, wouldn't you, in there? That seems to be the raving one now, isn't it? A buyback clause. I think Liverpool's got one in for Kwanzaa, I saw today.
It seems like there's some exciting prospects coming through that academy system. I did see someone say that there's been like a bit of a coup of Forest keeping a 14-year-old at the club. So, I mean, if that's happening, you kind of think you're quite excited for the next few seasons with our academy. We have produced a lot of good players from it, but nothing that's took your eye in terms of making it as a Premier League sort of player, obviously since Johnson or Yates. So, interesting times to come, hopefully, because they are redeveloping, aren't they, around the training ground? They're redoing the centre at Forest Fields, aren't they? And then I think they want to do more to the training ground, I believe. So there's obviously scope to improve that for us, because we need to keep doing it. You want to keep people coming through, don't you? Local lads, it's a good thing.
It was mentioned because that's why Leicester built their training ground on our border, didn't they? And if you do go back, because I drove past a couple of times Leicester's training ground, it's like something the Teletubbies built. So, as amazing as it is, but Forest are a little bit behind the times in the infrastructure. We do know that because we've been out of the Premier League for 23 years before these last few years, and even when we got back to the Premier League, was so behind on the field that was kind of putting all his eggs into that basket, because that means the most, doesn't it? But hopefully now we're kind of established and we're moving forward, it can start to obviously improve the infrastructure off the pitch as well. But that's it then for this one. So as we said, Forest are back in action at Chesterfield in a week on Saturday. I'm sure we'll be back with another pod in the future. We've got some ideas on that, but until then, I won't spoil any surprises. But thank you for watching or listening, and come on, you Reds.